Okay, it's quite likely that you're very familiar with this method of wrapping. If you are, go ahead and run with it. For those of you who are not, I'm going to show you how I do this. And I learned this method from Tammy Merrill at Country Craft Creation, so I certainly do not take credit for this. So this is your centerpiece, okay? The two wings are left unaltered. And then you have your front and back cover. The 8 1/8 of an inch is running up and down, okay? So from here to here, it's 8 1/8. And from here to here, it's 8 3/8. So let's move this one off to the side. What I'm gonna do with, and your chipboard of course is face down, that's the most important part. So I'm gonna take my glue and I'm gonna adhere it to this entire wing, but I do not wanna go directly up against this edge, okay? So I'm gonna stay about 1/8 of an inch away. I have no control unless my wrist is resting on something. Just like when you write with a pencil. Okay, and then I'm gonna take this piece and it's gonna get adhered on top. So before I do that, I'm gonna flip it so that the left edge is still on the left. And I'm gonna run a thin bead of glue against here, again, keeping it about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Okay, flip that back over, and you're gonna line it up as best you can and then stick it down. You don't wanna stick it down and then slide because you're just gonna slide glue into the edge. So line it up as best you can and then stick down. Once it's down, push it in, oh, don't do that. Push it into the edge, okay? And of course I got glue in there, which was the thing we were trying to avoid. Okay, so if you do what I just did, or if you got glue too close to your edge, you wanna open it up and just keep it in that position until it dries. Because once it dries, you'll be all right. I'm just gonna burnish this super fast. Okay, I'm gonna keep this folded. Basically, I'm opening it up so that that edge is exposed. So the crevice in between the two pieces is exposed, so that way my glue that I got up into that crack will dry. Because if it doesn't, if you've got glue in there and you keep it in this position and the glue dries, when you do that, it's gonna tear the fibers of your paper, so. And you know what, I wiped it away before it did anything, so I am completely fine here. Okay, so just burnish that wing really well. Okay, so there you have it. Beautiful. Okay, so then this one is going to get adhered to this wing, but I am going to turn it around this way just because I work better with it on the right. Okay. So I'm going to run a bead of glue about 1/8 of an inch away. And then cover the entire wing. Okay, and make sure that's still 8 1/8. Yes, from here to here, 8 1/8. Okay, so turn it over so that that left edge is still on the left. Okay, and this time I won't push it so hard that it slides out of place. Okay, so you do want to push it into the edge of this piece, but not so much that you do what I did. All right. Now we can turn that over, burnish that real well. Absolutely no glue there. That's great. I do like to do this when I burnish as well because it helps spread the glue, that it's not going to spread so much that you actually get it where you don't want it. It just makes it so that everything sticks together better. Okay. And there you have it. That's how we wrap our cover. Okay, so to put our pages onto our book, so this is our book. It doesn't matter which way it sits at this point. So we've got 4 pages, and you're going to take the first one, and you want your little 1/2 inch flap to be pointing off to the left, okay? And that is going to get adhered down to your spine just like that, okay? Right up against the left edge of the spine. And you just want to make sure that you're not covering up the gap, okay? You're just going to go directly to the left of that space. And your page is going to line up beautifully with the top and bottom edges, okay? So basically once that's adhered, you've got a page here with, well, 1/4. I think we made those, no, half. With 1/2 of an inch to the left of that page, okay? So if you were to bring up your cover and there's your page, you've got 1/2 inch space in between the cover and the page, okay? So then once that's adhered down, this will be stuck like that. And then your next page, again, your flap is off to the left and that'll go directly up against it, okay? So by the time you're done, you're gonna have 1/2 inch of space, a page, 1/2 inch of space, another page, 1/2 inch of space, your third page. So basically by the time all your pages are done, you're gonna have 1/2 inch space between all of them. Okay, so our page is gonna go like this. So on the outside of that flap, okay, let's apply our adhesive. Okay, and then just very carefully line that up with the top and bottom of your book, okay, as best you can. And just don't put too much pressure for burnishing it yet. I'm just kind of gonna very lightly stick that down. Then I'm gonna turn it this way. Beautiful. Lines up when I close it, lines up when I open it. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna make sure I burnish it while keeping it in place. It's okay if your glue spreads, because that means it is covering every space of that flap. It is not going anywhere. All right. Okay, so then we can take our second page. We're going to do the same thing, okay? And we'll line that up, glue it down, and they should all line up perfectly. And of course, sometimes I notice that it might be off like a hair. I'm like, how does that happen? Well, we're cutting this paper by hand. We're not a machine. And even when machines do it, honestly, sometimes they do a worse job than we do. So, you know, don't let it bother you too much if it's not absolutely 100% perfect. I'm trying to keep it in frame without getting my fuzzy hair, my frizzy hair in the way in frame. Okay. Perfectly lined up that way. Oh, beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love it when it works out like that. And these little 1/4 inch spaces, you know how we scored our pages at a 1/2 inch, which is our flap, and then we scored it at 3/4 inch, leaving a 1/4 inch gap there. That's going to allow our pages to lay flatter. So we don't have to fold those now. I usually do not, because it's much easier to do what we're doing right now without that gusset being in the way. When it's still unfolded and flat, it's easier. Okay. So there's our third page. Okay, so there we have it. So now we can go ahead and start cutting all of our little pieces that we're going to, all of our interactive pieces that will make up our album, okay? Beautiful. For our two large pockets, one is going to go on the front inside cover and one is going to go on the back inside cover, okay? And what we want to do is we want the opening to be on the front inside cover, we want the opening to be obviously on the left. If we had the opening on the right, it wouldn't be very smart. And then on the back cover, we want our opening to be on the right, not on the side where the pages are, okay? So front inside cover, these are our pages. I'm going to this is the side that has no flap, it's over here. I am going to first apply glue to only one of my flaps. I will do the bottom or top. Okay, and then fold that back under. And I'm gonna, remember my opening is on the left. Okay, so there's no flap here. I'm going to line up that bottom edge with the bottom edge of my cover, and I want the right edge lined up with the right edge of my cover. Okay, so I just find this easier to do when I don't have to stick down all flaps. I feel like I have a lot more room to make a mistake. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so now that I have that exactly how I want it, I'm gonna burnish that really well. And I'm getting glue all over my fingers. Okay. And then I can open that up and I can burnish that flap like this. Okay. And then we can go ahead and apply glue to our remaining two flaps, and it's already lined up. We don't have to worry about lining it up. Okay, so then at the front of our album, and this is still a full page that we can decorate. It's almost as if there's nothing here. This is just the front inside cover. So we can still decorate that however we want, but then we also have this giant pocket that we are going to slide in a large photo collage. And we'll have, you know, a decorative piece that will help us pull it out, which will stick past the edge of your album, which I like that look. So that's why I designed it that way. So we'll center the two, because we'll have a, you know, a decorative piece that will pull the collage out of that pocket, and we'll have a decorative piece that will pull the collage out of this pocket. So we'll center them so that, you know, maybe however you want them. They could both be here, they could both be here. You could have them centered, one at the top, one at the bottom, whatever you want to do. Okay, and then for the back cover, same exact thing, okay? So this has no flap on this side, so we want that to be on the right. I'm going to adhere glue to only one of my flaps. And then again, let's just go ahead and apply adhesive to our two remaining flaps and adhere it down, okay? Okay, so at this point I am going to, we're working on page 1, which is this page right here, okay? Okay, so page 1, front and side cover is off to the left. Okay, so we still have that additional score line on all of our pages. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and fold on those. And the easiest way that I have found to do that once it's adhered down is just take a straight edge, like a ruler, and just hold it up against that score line. And just take your page, and with your my finger is right here against that ruler, and it will naturally fold. It's going to want to do it all by itself. And then just kind of do this to help it fold. And I'm not going to burnish it. This is just a lay flat gusset. It doesn't need to be burnished. Okay, and I also want it to go both ways, so you can use your ruler again if it needs help folding in that direction. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so I do want it to go in both directions, which it will definitely start to do on its own. Okay, so there we go. And I did want to fold that now because I just want to make sure that when I'm applying my large flap to this page 1, that I don't adhere it too close to that fold or over the edge of it. So here's our large flap. And the reason that I have not yet folded that little tiny gusset there, because remember we scored this at 1/2 and 5/8. I haven't folded that other score line yet because that's going to create a tiny little 1/8 of an inch gusset. And that's just going to get in my way. I have a terrible time adhering a flap when there's a tiny little gusset next to it. So I'm going to use my ruler to fold that afterwards. Okay, so here's our large flap. And what we're going to do is we are simply going to adhere that 1/2 inch flap down directly on the left edge of page 1. And again, the left edge starts after that lay flat gusset. So you could fold it down to get that gusset out of your way if you wanted to, or you could fold it flat. I mean, however you prefer to do that. So it's going to get adhered just like that. Okay. So I'm going to apply adhesive to my flap. Okay. And then, without getting my head in the way, go. Oh, and look how beautifully that lines up. Okay. I'm going to open up just that large flap there, and you do have an inch of space between your large flap and your page 1. Okay. All right. And this glue, of course, will dry. I use art glitter glue. It'll dry and it'll get covered up by decorative paper. Okay, so there's that. Okay, and then there's again that tiny little 1/8 of an inch gusset that we will fold so that it will allow us to have some space because more stuff is going to go underneath of this flap. So you can take your straight edge Beautiful. Okay. So now we have that little 1/8 of an inch gusset, which, like I said, will give us some more space for the stuff that's going to go under here. Okay, and of course it does not need to fold both ways because it's not a lay flat gusset. Okay, perfect. So then our small flap. So let's open up that large flap to get it out of the way. And our small flap is simply going to get adhered to page 1 with the flap on the right. Okay, and we again want to leave a 1-inch space over here. So you're gonna have to get out your ruler and you're gonna wanna measure 1 inch of space. And if you did it correctly, it's gonna line up absolutely beautifully with this large flap. So you won't see that small flap until you've unfolded this one, okay? So for this one, what I like to do is I am gonna line it up first, and then I'm gonna hold it down while I pull that out and apply glue to it. And if you've cut yours just a tiny bit too wide, you could always take a sliver off the top or the bottom. Oh wow, look at that. That's exactly 1 inch. And I mean exactly 1 inch, okay? Perfect. So I've got that where I want it. I'm holding it down. All right, perfect. So that's page 1, okay? So we have a large flap here with a little gusset to have plenty of space for what's underneath of it. You open up that large flap and then we've got a small flap, okay? And you still have 1 inch of page 1 showing. All right, so then we can move to page 2. Okay, so here's the large flap for page 2, okay? We've got our 1/2 inch flap that we've mitered, okay? And then we've got another score line, which is gonna be a little 1/8 of an inch gusset, which we have not folded yet. So this large flap is gonna go on to page 2 so that it opens up to the left, okay? And we are going to adhere that 1 inch away from the left edge of page 2. So we'll have 1 inch of space here, and we'll have 1 inch of space here. So I'm just gonna line that up so that the bottom and top edges are lined up. Oh my gosh, look at that, I did that. I did that perfectly, I don't know how I did that. That's exactly 1 inch. So I'm gonna hold that in place. And then I'm gonna fold that back under. Okay. Okay, so that's the large flap on page 2. Okay, and then I'm going to take the small flap, which just has a 1/2 inch flap on one of the shorter ends. We did not miter it. We don't need to miter this one because it's not going to be it's not going to be up against the very edge. Well, we're going to adhere it to the edge, but it's not going to, the edge of this flap is not going to be on an edge of a page. So we're going to center it. We're going to make sure our large flap is opened up, and then we are going to center it in between the remaining space, which you can use a pencil and you can measure this remaining space, which should be exactly 7 1/8. And then so you could put that, you could put a little pencil mark to, let's see if I have a pencil here. Okay, so that would be exactly 3 9/16. So and it doesn't have to be perfect at all. And then if we measure the center of this piece, 2 1/4, and then you just line up those 2 tick marks, okay? Perfect. Okay, so that is page 2. So now we will move on to page 3. Okay, so we are on page 3, and our first piece that we have is the large flap that we cut, okay? And that has a 1/2 inch flap over here, and it also has another score line, which is going to create a 1/8 inch gusset. We have not folded on that yet. So this is going to go on page 3 so that it opens to the right. So it's going to get adhered, I'm sorry, it opens to the right. So the flap is on your right, and you're going to adhere that on the right side of the page, 1 inch away, okay? So that when that's adhered down, we'll have an inch here and an inch here. Well, once it's adhered down and once we fold the gusset, then there will be 1 inch over here as well. Right now it's laying flat because we haven't folded the gusset. Where's my ruler? Okay. So I'm just going to lay this down like I did the last couple times. Okay. All right, it's lined up top and bottom. I've got 1 inch here. And then I'm going to fold that under. And I messed up. It slid out of place slightly, but that's still perfect. It's wonderful. Okay. So now I'm just going to adhere that down really well. Burnish that, I should say. Burnish it really well. Okay. And then we can go ahead and take our ruler. I'm sorry, I have a very noisy household if you couldn't tell. All right. There we go. It's so tiny that it doesn't want to, there we go. Usually I can do that without putting any trauma on the, without traumatizing the page. Okay, there we go. So now you have 1 inch here and 1 inch here, okay? So our next piece is going to be, I believe it is our belly band. We can do that next. So let's open up that flap. It opens, it folds from the, opens up from the left to the right. Okay, and that is going to go centered in between the remaining space, okay? So we've got about, again, 7 1/8. And remember this page, we can also go ahead and fold on our pages, lay flat score line, okay? Just so that we are not forgetting that that's there. Perfect. All right. So now that we have folded on that, our lay flat hinge is ready, and I want it to go both ways. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So our lay flat hinge is there. Okay. So our large flap is perfectly centered. It opens up this way. Okay, we have 1 inch space here, 1 inch space here, not including that lay flat hinge. Okay, so 1 inch, 1 inch. This opens up, and then we should have exactly 7 1/8 of an inch space. I'm gonna eyeball it. Looks perfectly centered to me. And then I'm just gonna make sure I have the same amount of space. That's about 2 3/4 of an inches away from there. And yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay, so I had to unclog my glue tip. So I went ahead and applied adhesive to the outside of one of the flaps, and I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna eyeball it. And as long as it is lined up with the edge evenly there at the top, it'll follow through all the way down, okay? Perfect. All right. And you could even, I think it's actually, I'm going to slide this one over. There we go. Okay. Perfect. All right, so then we can burnish those really well. All right, and also while we have this large flap on, oh, we already did that. We already folded it, it's gusset. I was saying that we didn't, but we did. Okay, belly band is on, this here is on. Let's go ahead and take, okay, so let's take our piece that looks like this, okay? I believe I labeled it our booklet base and our booklet piece, okay? So this is our booklet base. It's the one that looks like that. And this is our booklet piece, Okay, and so this thing, this is like the lid, the closure piece. Okay, so that's going to be sitting up toward you, and the little 1/2 inch flap is going to be folded under and on your work surface underneath. So with our booklet piece, the 1/2 inch flap, we are going to apply adhesive to the outside, so right here, and it's going to fold under and it's going to get adhered to the right edge. Okay, and the top and bottom edges will line up beautifully, and the right edge, of course. Perfect. Okay, just like that. All right, and then what you're probably going to have to do is you're probably going to have to just take a sliver off of the edge here because now it won't shut. So I'm just going to cut a little sliver off of this edge so that I can shut my booklet. Okay, so there we have it. And then this is our little flap, which we're going to use to adhere down. And this booklet is going to get centered on the right edge of our large flap, which I don't have in frame. It's going to get adhered to the edge of our large flap. So again, you can eyeball it, you can measure it to make it absolutely perfect. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, so again, this is our large flap. Underneath is our belly band. This booklet is going on top of the large flap, adhered to the right edge. And you should have already folded so that you've got the 1/8 inch gusset here. All right. Okay, so mine might be a little bit closer to the bottom than the top, but that's okay. And I am flattening out the gusset on this large flap when I burnish, just so that I don't pulverize it. All right. Perfect. I have about 2 1/4 inch space on top, and oh wow, almost 2 1/4 exact space on the bottom and the top. So perfect. Okay. So that means all we have left. My dog is chasing her tail. Okay, so what we have left are 3 more pieces, and this one is the photo flip base. This one here. Photo flip base. It's the one that looks like this, okay? You've got an 1/8 of an inch gusset here and an 1/8 of an inch gusset here. And these are our photo flip pieces, okay? So what we're gonna do with this, it's not gonna get attached to anything. We're just gonna assemble it and stick it in the belly band for now. Cricket! What are you doing, you silly dog? Okay, so with your photo flip base opened so that this shortest piece is at the top and the 2 wider pieces are on the bottom, you're going to position it like that. One of these bases is going to get adhered to the bottom section and the other one is going to get adhered to the middle section, but you want your flap on the bottom, okay? So for this one, your flap is at the top. It's going to get adhered just like that. And the other one, your flap is on the bottom and it's going to get adhered like that. And you are not covering up your little 1/8 of an inch gussets, okay? So my glue is going to go on the outer side of the flap. Okay, And then my flap is at the bottom. No, it's not. It's at the top. And this one's gonna go on the bottom section of our photo flip base. And you're just lining up all three edges. Okay, the left edge, the bottom edge, and the right edge. And the top edge will not cover up that 1/8 of an inch gusset, okay? And I think my piece is a little wide. Yes, it is. Okay. So I might have to trim that. Other than that, it's perfect. Okay, so it looks just like that, okay? And my piece is a smidge wide, so I'll probably trim that in just a second. So then we have this one. Again, you want your glue to go on the outside of the flap. Okay, and then your flap is gonna be down, okay? And that's gonna get adhered to the middle section. Again, you're not covering up that 1/8 of an inch gusset, but you do want to adhere it so that it's just up against that gusset, not covering up the score line. Perfect. All right. So that is what we have, okay? So that opens up. Flip this one, and you flip that one. And you flip that one. Okay, so that's our little flip book. All right, so that is page 3, and then we will come back, of course, and secure this down. I'll show you how I will show you how I secure this piece down, okay? Okay, so here we have page 4. We've got our 2 flaps, and we have a pocket. So this is as easy as it gets. We're gonna take our 2 flaps. One is going to get adhered to the left edge of the page, and one is going to get adhered to the right edge of the page. So, and our lay flat hinge is there, so we won't adhere over top of that. So I'm going to apply adhesive to the outside of one of the flaps. Okay, and then we're just going to adhere that directly against the left edge. Oops, sorry there. I just banged my head on my on my camera holder. Cricket. Cricket, come here, sweetie. You're making all kinds of noise, sweet girl. And then this one. Hey, sweet girl. Okay, and then same thing for this one, except it's going to get adhered to the right edge of page 4. It's okay, sweetie.
Birdie.
Okay, and then all we have left is the pocket, and this, we did cut this slightly shorter than this width so that it doesn't get in the way of our flaps folding. So just apply glue to the outside of the pocket flaps and then just center that in between the flaps lined up with the bottom edge of page 4. Oh, and of course I forgot to close up the pocket. So we can just do that right now. Oh, hi, sweet girl. Hi. And that is page 4. Okay, so we've got page 5. I'm going to go ahead and get that additional score line folded to create our lay flat gusset. My dog has a friend over. So, all right, there we go. So page 5, we've got a pocket, and that's actually going to be a side pocket. So what we're going to do is we're going to adhere that to the left side of page 5 so that the opening is to the right. So it's quite simply going to get adhered just like that. I think I will go ahead and adhere the left flap. All right. Okay, and then I will apply my glue to these two. Hey, Birdie. It's okay, baby girl. Okay, and then our remaining piece is the pocket flap. So again, it's got a one flap over here, and we're going to adhere that to the left of the pocket. Okay, so it's just going to be a little flap. Okay. that is page 5. So we will come back and, you know, get this to stay closed and whatnot. Cricket, what is it? And now we're going to go to page 6. Okay, so we've got page 6 here, and we've got, excuse me, a large flap, okay, and that's going to get adhered to the center of page 6 so that it opens up to the left. So your flap is sitting on the left, and we're going to do it so we've got 1 inch of space left over on both sides. Okay, it's perfect. Okay, I'm just going to fold that under. And perfect. All right, and then our only other piece is the closure piece, so that's going to simply get adhered to the very right edge of page 6, and you're going to center it. So you can eyeball it, or you can get out your ruler. About 2.5. Oh, perfect. Right about there. And that is page 6. And again, we will make sure we come back and adhere that down, secure the flap down. Okay? Okay, so we skipped page 7 and now we're on page 8. And again, all we're going to do here is take these 2 flaps, adhere one to the left edge of page 8, and we are going to adhere one to the right edge of page 8. Let's go ahead and fold on that score line that will create our lay flat gusset. Okay. So we're going to apply glue to the outside. And just line that up with the left top and bottom edges of page 8. Okay. And exact same thing with the other one, but on the opposite side of the page. and that's page 8.